Let me go to. All right, we're gonna try this here. We're gonna see what happens. All right. All right. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the czar of the virtual background, the one and only Pro GK Academy, Omar Cerny. Joining us immediately right into the stream, we've got her 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber. What's up? Oh, look at that champs hat you got going there. I love that.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is amazing. And joining us we can hear you fine.
Great.
We can hear you. We can hear you fantastic.
Don't be jealous, Omar.
Finally got you a working mic.
Oh, it only took a year. And guys, joining us as a guest panelist today, we have, honestly, this is really cool, Thomas. We have a former Aberdeen Football Club goalkeeper. Why did I say keeping and I didn't know what a goalkeeper was? Tomas Cerny. Thomas, what's up, man? Thanks for being a fan. First off, honestly, this is really cool. When we hear of people who've played at the level like yourself in the Scottish Premiership, and clubs like CSK Sofia that are such big, huge deals. Obviously, former Czech Youth International. I mean, it means a lot to us, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, your podcast, I think is really amazing, and it's I consider myself as a beginner in terms of coaching. I had a long playing career. But and I can draw on that experience, obviously. But as a coach, I feel I have so much to learn, and that's why I've been listening to your podcast regularly over the last, I don't know how many months, probably 18 months, and it's been very informative, really inspiring, and helpful in many ways. And you had some really top level guests, and I think the Franz Hook, and I don't think Omar enjoyed that episode that much, but I really did. But was like absolutely really thought-provoking, episode for me. I really like so many others. Yet so many guests who are, the best goalkeeping coaches really in the world, and people who with vast experience. So I learned so much just from the podcast, and I like the format of it. There's a discussion. There's not just like one person talking. There's feeding somebody the opinion. Is the discussion and different angles on different things. So it's great. So it's a great honor for me to be here, and I see it as a great opportunity again to learn something new, and having a World Cup winner on the podcast. My heartbeat just gone quite up a bit, so I have to settle myself a wee bit. But thank you so much. Really thank you for having me here. Yeah, sorry.
I still don't understand the tilt. But...
What, the tilt with the hat? Looks good.
The tilt period. My whole head's tilted. I don't understand my camera. But it's okay.
I will say this though. It's really cool, Thomas, what you were saying, because earlier, before you guys came on, Thomas and I, we were kind of discussing about the fact, and Omar, you can attest for this. A lot of that fact is that with a lot of content that's out there, a lot of content on social media or podcasts or whatever, it's a lot of people talking to somebody as opposed to talking with somebody. And one of the things that we really try to pride ourselves with this show is trying to talk with the goalkeeping community as opposed to at them. As opposed to talking with somebody. And what? As we just overheard that. That's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's what makes the show so good, is that, we all provide different perspectives. And, Mike, every time we have a guest on, you always say, hey, feel free to talk whenever you want to talk. And it's not like, let's obviously let someone finish, but if there's something you need to interject and say something about it and want to keep your idea fresh and get it out there, I think we do a good job of giving the platform to everybody. So I'm happy to be a part of the show. So it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, like, I think one of the really cool things is in regards to that is just the fact that, like, people like Thomas, they come on and, they might have a completely different perspective because of, the experiences that they've had versus, somebody who played in Australia or somebody who played in Malaysia or something like that. So maybe, Thomas, for some of the people out there who might not kind of be familiar with your journey and how you ended up from the Czech Republic into Scotland, why don't you kind of fill people out on how the heck that even happened?
It was a bit of a, strange story. I would say like my journey into football was quite typical. I just started in a small town in Czechoslovakia, which later became Czech Republic. Just start playing in goals when I was 5 or 6. And then when I was 15, I was scouted by a professional team. So I moved away there and really just focused on my, training and studying, and got involved in all the kind of youth national teams in the Czech Republic, qualified for 3 different European championships, played in a couple of them, won the bronze medal, I think, under 19 level, and played against some big players, Giorgio Chiellini, David Silva, Virgil van Dijk later. But I got to the point when I was 21, 22, and I just became a bit disillusioned with football. I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't getting opportunities at the first team level. And at that point, I seriously was considering just quitting football altogether and focusing on studying. So it was a kind of clear sign that I had to change something radically. And I knew a friend who worked as a plumber in Scotland, and he played amateur football there. And I sent him an email and asked him if I could come over and spend some time with him and try to find, club or job in Scotland. I wanted to learn some English because it was kind of non-existent at that point, and just really get away from everything and get a fresh start. And through kind of series of coincidences and good luck, I ended up in Hamilton. I didn't know anything about the club, didn't know what the ambitions were, where actually the place was. We just drove there and I had no idea where we were going. And I found myself in a very good team alongside, players like Jess McCarthy, who both been playing in the English Premier League for the last 10 years. And yeah, we won the Scottish Championship, went to the Premiership, had a few good seasons there, then moved on to Bulgaria with CSKA Sofia, which was kind of most successful club in the country. Been coached by Christos Stoichkov there for a while, which was good fun. It was full of nonsense. And then I moved. Yeah.
Oh no! I was just going to say. That's really cool. The fact that you had that experience. Obviously going to Scotland, learning English, and then all of a sudden transferring over. And I think Saskia, we've kind of discussed this in the past.
Bulgaria is the first trip I ever made.
No way.
Where did you go?
We went and we played at that time, which would be probably considered the Algarve Cup now. That's played, that's obviously played in Portugal. And I was 17, and it was considered the first under 20 national team, but there was no real under 20 national team. So it was minus Michelle Akers, but it had Mia Hamm, Christine Lilly, and everybody else on it. And we went all around. It was amazing. What a beautiful country. It was incredible. Yeah,
it's a bit of a culture shock in some ways, but it's a beautiful country, and we spent 2 years there, and we still go back and we really loved our kind of time there. It was really cool. Yeah, and then I just moved very shortly to kind of Greek Super League. Then I wasn't being paid there, so we had to kind of cut a two-year contract a bit short. As a common problems in the kind of Balkan countries, not being paid. And
Omar's used to that. Omar's dealt with not being paid before to play soccer before, right?
Oh yeah, it's not fun. But I mean, at that level though, you could probably digest it a little bit better. For me, at the level that I was playing at, you just kind of go, all right, well, if the meals were provided, maybe I feel a little bit different, but no meals provided either. So
no, we literally just moved everything to go there, and the reason was obviously the kind of the contract you were offered and stuff like that initially. So then if you're not getting paid, it's quite difficult. And So we ended up coming back to Scotland, and I played for another 3 clubs after that, with like Hibernian, Partick Thistle, and ended my career here at Aberdeen. I'm so grateful it was at Aberdeen, because it's such a good club with a great history, and exciting just to be part of the club for the future, and obviously just started working with the young goalkeepers here, and I'm at the start of, let's say, new kind of chapter, new journey. Yeah.
See, I love that you said. I love that you said that right there, because this is something that we've seen a lot of, is a lot of recent retirees of the professional game kind of getting, and they go into the youth game as opposed to going into, let's just say, working with the professionals. And Saskia, I know we've had this discussion before about how we need, especially on the women's side, we need more people who are recent retirees as pros, getting back involved in the youth game.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to look at, but I think it filters from the top down. You have women that are playing pro and at the highest level, whether they're here in NWSL or whether they're in Europe, whatever, but their salary, which is what we're talking about, isn't sustainable. So you have to at some point make that decision, like, am I going to move on? And when you move on, some become doctors, some become lawyers, some move on. So people that, if their salary was sustainable while they were playing pro, could have moved on to being great coaches, but we're losing them. Because while they're playing pro, they have to make the decision, I can't live like this anymore. You don't have that problem as much with the men's side, which is why you have more men's coaches than women. And that is an issue. They drop off. We lose them. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you said that right there, because it is a huge issue that we've got in regards to just the fact that, like, a lot of people, once they're done playing, they're like, you know what, I'm kind of like, I'm done. And I'm not necessarily talking about even at the professional level, but I'm talking about like at the amateur level. And Omar, I know this is something that you've really been stressing to your young goalkeepers, is like, hey, even if you're, playing college in the summertime, like, do something back to give back to the game, because you don't honestly realize how much of an impact you can make on younger players this way.
Yeah, and I think, just kind of like shifting the perspective. Some people, obviously, preseason, they want to get ready for their season. They want to go in the gym. They want to be training. So I think their bandwidth of availability with time, it kind of becomes a little bit difficult. So for me, I try to describe it in a way where it's like, when you are still playing, getting into coaching is so beneficial, because now you're breaking down the concepts that you've been taught, but you're breaking them down to a T, so you know exactly why they're taught. And then sometimes too, you may go into it and go, oh wow, like, I know how to do it, but I don't know how to verbalize that. And then when you actually learn how to verbalize that, you get better as a player and as a coach too. And I think as well, for me, my coaches have always given me the platform to understand why we're teaching you this. Omar, if you have anything to say about it, let me know. So they always gave me a platform to speak up on stuff. So as I got into coaching, it was a smooth transition, because now it's like, oh, I don't have to learn. Obviously, you have to learn certain things about coaching, for sure, preparation and all that. But the terminology, how to break down certain things, how to break down film, how to break things down so it's digestible for a 10-year-old versus a professional goalkeeper, all that was taught in the adolescent phase when I was growing up, and then getting like coaching gigs while I was still in college. So it's super important. But I think, again, shifting that perspective and changing the way we describe it to the players of like, while you're still playing, go coach. If you can shift it to that, I think the narrative will change.
I just think our turnover is too great. That's what I think. Our turnover is too great because, like I said, the money's not there. And I hate to talk about that, but at the end of the day is, yeah, I've got, coming out of college, what are you going to do? You want to keep playing, you're playing pro, you're going to coach and this and that and the other. And I'll do like camps on the side and all this stuff. But in reality of life, I just feel that the turnover is too great. It can't constantly keep being fresh out of college kids. And here in the United States, especially on the women's side that are coaching, it has to be a lineage. It has to be the older coaches, the people that have the experience, the people that understand that. There's a lot of stuff I didn't understand until now. And with, you know, with that turnover because of that lack of support, you're going to hit a wall. I mean, obviously, the argument is the U.S. women haven't hit a wall, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's still true.
Thomas, is that something that's common in Europe as well too? You know, and please you know, refresh us and enlighten us if that is true in regards to players getting into coaching and then leaving real quickly.
Well, I think if you maybe talk about Scotland, if I just be completely about, like, I think the normal thing is probably like if you retire, you try to get yourself quickly into the first team because that's where the money are. That's where you can actually earn living. My situation is slightly different. Like my path, I'll go for a postgraduate degree in summer into teaching. So that'll be kind of my let's say main job, or the job that pays the bill. But with the working hours and with the holidays and all that kind of stuff, gives me a lot of space to actually work with the youth academy. Meaning, you know, usually the youth academy players, they still have to go to school. And so the training sessions are usually, you know, in the afternoon after school, so I'll still be able to make it. But so because I know at the moment, I don't think maybe Celtic, maybe Rangers have some kind of full-time positions for academy coaches, but they're not going to be paid well enough to sustain family and stuff like that. So I think the problem is similar there. There's, you know, at that youth level, there's, you know, I think what I understand is that there's not like a full-time goalkeeping coach role in most of the clubs. So it has to be something which you can combine with you know, another job, or be in a position where you can maybe go and do that job on a lower salary.
Yeah. No, I know. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think again, I mean, I've personally, I'll tell my own story. Like, I didn't want to get into coaching when I was done. I did it just for, you know, means to an end, make some extra money. But then I think once, because I was so well equipped because of the way my goalkeeper coach at the Galaxy and at Davis as well, the way they coached me was, they understood the way I learned best was visually, and they spoke as I was doing the movements they were teaching me. They were breaking it down in live time, so I knew exactly why my foot was supposed to be angled a certain way, why I was supposed to land on my lats. All these different like specifications, I was learning it while doing it, and then it was in my back pocket. So then once I realized, oh wow, maybe I can get into coaching, maybe I can start a social media channel that's going to allow me to break down stuff and share my ideas. And then all the lessons that I had learned over the years that I had kind of put in my back pocket, now they came to the forefront. So I think as coaches as well, you know, we don't have to like, you know, put pressure on anybody, but like maybe we find out the best way to teach these kids. And then from there, we give them the best tools just in case in the future they do want to turn to coaching. Because I mean, who doesn't want to stay around the game? You know what I mean? After I stopped playing, coaching was the best way for me to get involved. And I think I love the game so much that I couldn't stay away from it for too long.
No, I agree. It's the same for me. It's a passion, you know, it's a passion for goalkeeping, something I've done since I was 5. And it's almost like feels like retiring from the professional football, like that passion has been reignited, because I think at some point when you play in it professionally, it becomes a job. It becomes something, you know, a little bit of that. It's the passion and that kind of playfulness and all the positive things. A little bit of that is lost through the, you know, being professional and all the pressures you face throughout your career. And I feel now like that just coming back to me and makes me really happy. So I think that's the main reason why I got into coaching. It's not for money. It's not for, you know, anything else. It's all about that kind of passion and trying to help the young goalkeepers to become better and just seeing their progress and all that kind of stuff. So that's for myself.
No, I mean, absolutely, yeah. Thomas. And I think that this actually really segues really nicely into the topic today, which is going to be kind of, you know, analysis of match actions, you know, because the thing is obviously the fact that you played at such a high level, you know, Saskia played at such a high level, you know, Omar breaks down players who played at a high level.
One level below. Well, there we go.
Really provides a great resource, because I know that, for instance, it was crazy for those of you guys who are not familiar, but Thomas, you know, when he reached out about coming on the show, he's like, "Oh, I'll send you guys some notes." And dude, literally, he sent me like a 4-page breakdown. He's like, "Oh, these are just some notes I jotted on the bus." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this guy is prepared." So Maybe Thomas, for some of the parents out there who might not be familiar with what we're talking about in regards to match actions, what do you think about when you think match actions?
Well, for me, I think the match actions really are all the actions that a goalkeeper performs during the game, and it starts with the positioning throughout the 90 minutes. You know, the organization, the communication, and then all the kind of individual tasks related to, you know, distribution, shot stopping, one-on-one situation, dealing with crosses and cutbacks, dealing with the balls behind the fence, and so on. But to answer your question, like how it, you know, that's like from yeah, just basically all the actions that the goalkeeper, you know, goes through in the game. But I would include that important part is your positioning, because you're constantly changing your position in relation to the ball. Communication for me is absolutely crucial with your defenders, so you're able to and other players on the field, being able to make sure they are in the right position as well. There's right distances between you and other players, and then again, let's say backline, midfielders to attackers, and I think you, from your position, you can see it and you can really influence that. So yeah, but then, and all the actions you can kind of observe, and I had like a kind of methodology where I kind of broke it down into all really like crazy categories. It's like
it's pretty in depth. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, I love the fact that you brought up communication, because Saskia, you know, this is something that you've discussed a lot of times, is kind of, I don't want to say like ignored, but when people think of match actions, or they think of the actions that the goalkeeper's doing during the game, they think of, you know, the distribution, you know, with the feet, they think of, you know, handling crosses, and how rarely do people bring up communication as an action?
Well, you know, look, it's paramount at the end of the day, because it's a chess match, isn't it? When we think about it, and as a goalkeeper, you have to look at it that way, and you should be communicating even when we're in their defensive third, and you should be communicating and organizing to the point that if we turn the ball over in their defensive third, we win it back right away, and there are no surprises. And so communication is constant, but it's sound bites and it's on point. It's not a bunch of rambling. And you know, the funny thing is, when we teach kids literal that they have to communicate, they're just talking. And you know, I'm a proponent of, please don't tell the forwards what to do, don't tell somebody to pass the ball, don't tell somebody to shoot. You're not joysticking, you are, you know, focused on organization, and that's it. Just like you don't want anybody calling keeper for you. So, you know, it's a paramount part. We're not, it's not practice. We're not making 30, 40 saves in a game. Hopefully we're not. So, you know, but what you are doing is organizing and communicating, and it's so important.
Omar, how tough is that? Oh, go ahead, Thomas.
No, I just want to say it's exhausting because I remember so many games where, you know, I look at my stats and there would be like one shot on target, and I came off the pitch and I would be, you know, absolutely exhausted by that mental exhaustion, and I couldn't talk because you were, maybe there's a big crowd, 50,000, you try to scream, you know, and so they can actually hear you. And that was a mental strain where you're trying to focus throughout the 90 minutes, and you end up like, and then the coach would say, "Oh, you had nothing to do today, yeah." You know, the manager and the players, and you know, and everyone, "Oh, you had nothing to do today," and then you'll be coming, you know, home, and you felt that was a really tough game, because actually it's so much easier sometimes to make 5 saves in the first half, because you know, it just flies in and it's an easy game. But if you have nothing to do for a long period, and the main thing is just staying concentrated, it just drains you. So, and I think it's the most important part of the job, being able to communicate, being able to get your team organized so that we can prevent the chances before they actually happen. Rather than dealing with the shots, you know, I would rather, you know, it's much
have
better
nothing to do,
because the shot that doesn't happen, nobody can score from that shot, you know?
Right. The greatest save a goalkeeper can make is no save at all, because they're organized and communicating, and that's a fact. And it is mentally exhausting. I 100% agree with you. because when it comes down to it, if you are not doing that, if you're not communicating, if you're not staying dialed in, if you're not organizing, when it comes down to the 89th minute and you have to come up with that save and you've been off in la la land the whole time, you're not going to make that save. But it's a way to keep yourself engaged.
That's a very good point, actually, and that's something we talk about with our young goalkeepers as well. Is that positioning and talking helps you with the concentration, meaning being always with the position, with the ball, moving with the ball, going up and down, left and right, and talk to your players helps you stay in the game, obviously, and helps you to be then prepared for that moment when you are needed. Yeah, That's a great point, Saskia. Yeah.
It's so funny that you brought that up, Thomas, because I think one of the things that Omar, this is a conversation I think that we've personally had ourselves in regard to the fact that, like, for yourself, for somebody who is breaking down games as a social media educator, one of the things that's very difficult for you to do is actually break down how the communication led to the action, because it's just not easily accessible. From the tape or from you breaking it down. It's also hard to kind of translate on tape.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I was talking to Thomas Schleck, who's at Dortmund, and I think when he was at Red Bull Salzburg or one of those teams that has a Red Bull in front of it, he was saying that his job was to go and get out of the U20 Euros, European Championships, they needed to get like a group of 20 goalkeepers. And in those 20 goalkeepers, they went to go watch 10 of their games. And after that, they would narrow that field to 10 goalkeepers. Then they'd go watch 8 more of their games. And then they narrowed that further and further and further until they got to the last goalkeeper on the list. And he said the main reason we did that is because, you can watch drills, you can watch sessions, you can watch all that. But to actually see somebody in person and actually hear the communication, see what they see in relation to what's happening. We talk about Mike, you asked, match actions. Decision making is decision making, and as goalkeeper trainers, we obviously don't have the accessibility of the full team at all times, as Franz Hoek probably would want us to, and we don't have the full field. So a lot of times, our communication is minimized to the final action. So we're only speaking on the final action. But then, like Saskia and Tomas are saying, is that in a game when the ball is on the other side and there's a corner kick and you notice there's a 2v2 situation, can you tell your defender or, a midfielder who's stepping too far forward, who's on top of the 18 for no reason, drop off 10, 15 yards. So now we have an advantage on a 3v2. So now when that ball gets played in behind, we contain them, we put it out for a throw in versus we're going 2v2 and now I'm having to, change up my final action per se. So I think it's understanding that the communication is so, like we talk about, it's just so vital. But at the same time, too, it's important because you're putting out fires. And we talk about pessimistic thought process is that you always think about what can potentially happen and how can I communicate this so that this never happens. So I think that's super important. I think when Thomas was telling me that, Thomas Schleck was telling me that, I was like, wow, you guys went that in depth. He's like, Omar, obviously there's a lot of money at play. So we gotta get the right goalkeeper. But at the end of the day, you want to see what these goalkeepers do, what their IQ is. Are they faking a throw underneath to the 6 so that the right winger steps to the 6 so the left back is wide open? It's like you can't really see that in training sessions. So in games, that's why it's so important.
It's funny. It's funny you're saying that, Omar, because Saskia, we've had this conversation in regards to at the collegiate level, and then obviously Thomas, this at the professional level. Is it truly possible, Saskia, for you guys in the collegiate environment to truly simulate the match actions, or is the issue that you just know the players are just too familiar with each other, so that unknown element isn't necessarily there?
No, we simulate.
No? Okay.
Absolutely. We have, it also depends on who you have on your team. If we grab the non-starters and say, this is what you're playing, this is the situations we want. And we do controlled scrimmages to simulate the other team's like strengths and stuff like that. We absolutely do that. And our players are educated enough that they understand what they're doing. They understand why they're doing it. All right, so I know we are going up against this player and they like to drive down the end line and turn in to go to goal. So our players are educated enough, and we go over that enough that they're doing that. Is that what they might that might not be their specialty, but they know that that's what they're doing to challenge our starters.
So real quick, just to bounce off that point, and Thomas, I'm gonna run it by you as well. But like, for example, I've noticed from a lot of the final actions, the final plays, most goalkeepers, we've talked about it on previous podcasts, they're starting about 25 yards. I mean, the way the game is being played now, you can never turn off, you can never shut down, because any chance that ball gets played over the top, you're going to play that sweeper keeper. You're going to be called upon. So you have to stay a little bit higher. Obviously, your communication keeps you engaged. But more often than not, if you don't come out for that ball that gets played over the top, you're recovering back to your line 20 to 25 yards. And then you're seeing that final action on the cutback. Yeah. So again, that is where, Thomas, you're saying right there, in a game, you may have seen 2 or 3 opportunities that you're sprinting 20, 30 yards and nothing comes of it. And then on the stat sheet, everyone's saying, "Oh, you didn't have much to do." But we know we're almost at the end of the day. We're burning our legs moving from point A to point B. So then we can position ourselves better for that final action, whether it's a cutback, whether it's a cross, a through ball. But I think that is the missing piece, in my opinion, because the coaching staff, sometimes they run their drills and then we run our drills and we only get half the field. There isn't as much communication, because you're not communicating that first ball coming over the top and then you're recovering and then you're communicating that. You're only communicating that ball almost being, how some coaches do it, put the ball on the top of the corner of the 6.
I'm sorry, were you at my session? Were you at my session today?
Is that what you guys? Is that what you did?
No, he said the drone.
I did retreating a goal. I did retreating a goal, getting into position with my goalkeepers. I absolutely did.
Yeah.
I did negative movement into positive movement, and that was my session today. Absolutely, because it's what we're doing, especially with the UCLA keepers, the way they have to play, because they're utilized so much with their feet. I hammered it in today, and we just did negative movement into positive movement, retreating, understanding your awareness of where you are positionally and how to come forward after going backwards. And that was, yeah. I just think that's weird. I think you're stalking me.
No, but Mike, that's what oh my God, Steve, what's the guy from Portland? I forgot his name.
From Portland, Steve Clark?
Steve Clark. It was Steve Blake. Yeah, Steve Clark. He was telling us that, like, his goalkeeper coach Memo, a lot of the times they work on
NBA player.
No, so yeah, I know that. So he said that a lot of times that he recovers from, like, let's say the D of the 18, recovers back to the line, and he's working on that back set into a shot. I don't know. He said it really well. It's like that back set, and then you get set and you push. He's like, nobody really trains that. And he's like, Memo has been training me that since day one, and I feel like I excel so much more from it. So I think that, again, that's one of those things where when you watch the film and you're able to see certain situations, then you start realizing, okay, Neuer came a little bit, decided not to come. He's trying to decide now. He's retreating, but, like, he's not just retreating to a starting point. His eyes are guiding how much time he has to retreat. And also, too, what not to keep going with this, but every time I teach young goalkeepers, I always say, like, when you come out of your line and where you start, you need to be locked in and zoned into how far did I just come out? Where am I standing? Where am I right now? So that when that ball gets played over the top, you're not quick. You have to obviously check your shoulder to see where you are in relative to the post, but understanding how far you are out of the goal, so that quick turn of the head is not like a 2-second turn. It's 1 second turn. You already know where you are, and that data point is already picked up. But again, we talk about it a lot of times. A lot of kids don't understand how to be switched on at all times, so that they can get those data points, do the work early, and then the work is easy for them on the way back.
Well, and basically it becomes. You have to use your peripheral at some point. You have to understand where you are in the context of the lines on the field and everything. So it's not a second thought. So like, end all be all, you don't have to check your shoulder. You don't have to check anything. You know that you've just crossed backing up. You've just crossed, the hashtag. You've just done that. You're crossing over the 6. At what point you're still watching the player? So if the player bows up to shoot, you're not just still trying to get back. You understand that you're out of position, but you still have to get set and make a save. And those are things that have to be trained. And that comes into context of what we're talking about by manipulating the situation in front of you. How do I set up stuff with verbally, so that if there's a breakdown that happens and I'm out of position technically with the breakdown, my players aren't, so they can slow that down so I can recover as well. So, you have to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Thomas, I want to bring this up with you right now because obviously you just recently, finished your playing career, and one of the trends like we're talking about right here is that that negative movement is so big nowadays. Is that something that as your playing career progressed, you started recognizing yourself playing higher and higher up the field, so that your goalkeeper training started changing because the actions changed that you were doing in the game?
Well, I don't think the goalkeeping training has changed that massively. Like, it's not like we've been doing like sessions where you would be starting on outside of the box and dropping back in, but it's definitely something based on, let's say, the analysis and just the way the game is. I would definitely consider it, because it's probably more realistic to I had a session today, and again, it was I try to be dropping from let's say penalty spot into the 6-yard box, and then there will be different types of shots and stuff like that. So again, it's time to get them used to get into that. But just to go back to your just the question when you talk about whether we can simulate the basically the match action in the training, and I think my kind of basic answer would be no, because I don't think you can. There's such a strong psychological aspect with different types of pressure on the goalkeeper. There are fans in the game. There are referees. There's 11 opposition players with the sole purpose of scoring a goal against you. Your teammates behave differently on a match day usually, and there is a kind of great deal of unpredictability in the game. But we can of course recreate very kind of specific and game realistic situations in training. We can try to get goalkeepers to kind of repetitions and just try to make it as, let's say, like, I'm not saying that the training is not effective in improving the ability of the goalkeeper or giving the goalkeeper the best chance of playing well in the match. Of course it is, and that's why we are here as goalkeeping coaches. But it's just not the same, and we'll never be able to create the same situation, especially in their heads. We can create the same situation on the pitch, but it's try to put as much pressure on them and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of that psychological aspect and those outside pressures, we'll never get there. So I think in training, we need to create those really realistic situations with other players, opposition players, our players, and put them through the repetitions that we hopefully get their actions more instinctive, build their confidence. So when they find themselves in similar scenario on the pitch on a match day with all that pressure, additional pressure, they are able to cope with it. So I think that's my kind of perspective on it. Yeah, it's not never gonna be the same in training, but we can do our best in training to design the training around it in the way that helps them to then play well in the match.
Yeah, I mean, like, even like if I look back on our first goal against USC this weekend against us, my question to Lauren was basically like, were you communicating? Were you telling to push outside, to push wide? Because, and when USC's player took a touch inside a beat, were you ready for that? Did you make the step to change your positioning and steal ground with her cutting back inside, which we ended up getting scored on? And I feel like, I've looked at it and stuff, and I'm like, that's one of those chess matches. That's a manipulation of telling your defender, force her right, force her right, force her right. And when she cut back inside, ready for that cut back, steal an extra yard and stand her up. And, we got scored on it, but this is something that we do in practice. This is something that we do with our defenders and we do with our attackers, and that communication is there. And I agree with you. It's you're not going up against USC with all the stress and everything going on, but we can still kind of like reenact or like repetitively say, this is how you handle the situation verbally. This is how you do it. Be ready for this if there's a mistake. And, that's the best we can do with it. What?
By the way, I'm just looking at the background right now of Omar with just a plain blue background behind him. And it looks like he's auditioning for Us 3. Like,
Yeah,
it
I
looks
know.
like
Do I need
he's
to
auditioning to
rewind
be on
for
the
you?
podcast.
where's the Aberdeen flag, Omar?
Yeah, what happened?
Oh, I
Omar?
know.
Where did
My teeth were like flashing. It looked like I was like, it did not, yeah,
Oh,
wasn't a
that's
good look.
Dude. Oh man. Oh yeah. That's the fun of technology when you start incorporating new technology. Omar, it is in all seriousness, though, in regards to you and technology, because of the fact that you do so much stuff on social media, you have had the chance to kind of showcase different trends in the game, and obviously some really phenomenal stuff up there that recently has been on the Pro GK Academy channel. I really encourage a lot of people out there to check that if they haven't. And one of the things that you've been showcasing kind of is the trend of the movement of the goalkeeper, and how these match actions really need to be replicated at training. And by that means a lot of these passive movements we're not replicating in training. So we're just training that final action or those quick movements. But a lot of the match is just slow movements and just really moving kind of back and forth, and the pivoting around that kind of that grid, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the tricky part about goalkeeping too, is that like you obviously want to make sure that they're always sharp and their movements are always, they excel at the right times. Yeah, but I mean, I have a goalkeeper that I'm working with now, and he's been trained all of his life. He's Brazilian. He's been trained all of his life to go, 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 and he never really, gives himself an opportunity to get, gain clarity, take a breath. And I feel like, guys, look, man, the game is it fluctuates. For 10 seconds of the game, you're extremely involved. And then for the next minute, you're not involved at all. But how do we maintain a certain level of involvement in the game? And that comes down to communication. That comes down to position. That comes down to your starting points. There's so many different things that you can really try and implement into your game that keep you involved in the match, that when you do have that final action, you are sharp and ready to go. But, for Mike, for me, it's just like, I always tell my goalkeepers, when you are going to be called upon in like that 10-second window, just do the hard work early. That's what my coach used to always say.
Yeah.
Like, get to your spots early, and then from there, now you're going to be able to see everything, and then from there, you're going to be able to actually activate those techniques that we've been working on in training. So, for example, I was working on crosses last week, and I noticed that when I was watching film, I kept telling them that I'm using my little deflector shield, and we're dropping off into our line, and then getting a header on goal between the few dummies. And I noticed that the goalkeepers were matching the pace of the service. And I was like, but hey, like if you understand and when you have a good idea, general idea of where that ball is going to be headed from or where that ball is going to be hit from, why don't you just do the hard work early, get to your spot, so that when that shot is put on frame, you're not timing your set with the shot, but rather you're set and then the shot comes. And I was telling them, like, those minute details, you don't, in my opinion, you won't get unless you watch film, unless you break down film. So for me, I love breaking down film of professional goalkeepers, but then obviously providing the context of why this goalkeeper does this. Manuel Neuer is a great example. Why does he do certain things? Because he's 6'5", and in Germany, those guys are like gymnasts. They can do the splits. They can do so many different things that here in the States, I wouldn't be able to do because I wasn't exposed to that. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But then you have to look at like the fundamental piece of what are they doing that's going to give them the best advantage. And more often than not, they're getting to their spot early. They're not trying to time the shot with their set. They're understanding, okay, that ball is probably going to that general area. Can I communicate it? Okay, I communicated it. Can I move my feet, get there a second early? So now when that shot comes, I step and go versus just getting into a position where I'm just kind of falling in an emergency movement type situation.
Yeah, number one, that if you ever go with the shot or the pace of the ball, you will probably about 90% of the time get beat.
Yeah.
So you can, and especially going back to your goal or anything, you can't go with the pace of the ball. Same as a cross. If you go with the pace of the ball, you have to explode through the ball. Like you can't flow with, it'll beat you, period. It will. It makes me think of, and I will give another analogy. Omar loves his other sports analogies.
Never beat me, by the way.
But
Never.
never. Me, sweetheart, me either. But
Definitely beat me, I'll tell you that.
But when you look at, because you get back fast and you attack the ball. Look at like Ali boxing, right? Always moving early in position. Always, it's a dance. It's moving your feet. It's being in quick micro positions early so that when you need to attack, you can attack. You're not flat-footed. You're not waiting for the attack. You're kind of ahead of it, and I agree with that. So I gave a sports analogy. I thought you'd like that.
That was lovely.
Float like a butterfly.
Yeah.
So I have a surprise right here, everybody. Thomas, I have clips of you, and we're going to do a breakdown of your match actions.
You said it. Never
oh, no.
Because look, here's the thing: is you just recently retired, which means unlike us three right here, it's very easy to find clips of you online. So I want to bring this up right here because this is actually perfect right here. If I can get this, let's see here if I can. Application window. No, that's not what I want to do. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, let's see if hold on. Let me try a different way here.
New technology.
New technology here. Okay, so let's see.
I'm slightly apprehensive here.
I don't know, but Omar, you look like you're gonna take a mug shot, man.
Oh my God.
All right. So let's see here. Let's see here if this popped. This. Whoops. Hold on. We want to turn off that volume right there. Okay. Here we go. So what we got right here, guys, obviously is going to be basically what's going to happen is there's an outswinging cross right here. Thomas is going to recognize the fact. Is this going too slow? Can anyone see? Or is this going way too slow?
It's not going at all.
New technology.
I'm not sure I like our new technology, Mike.
I think it's just I think I need a new computer. I think it's just not strong enough.
Corner's coming in.
Yeah. Can anyone see this?
Mike, just like fast forward, like using the speed up key.
Little speed up key. I'm trying to.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna go slow, but yeah, it doesn't look like it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's not working. All
Thomas,
right. Well,
do you remember this save?
It was such an amazing save. You never seen such a save as well. It's like a.
It was incredible.
Oh my
incredible!
God.
Like don't play it again, but it was one of the best saves ever. Okay, and
I love it. I love it. It goes down in history.
Okay. No, don't play it.
Okay. I won't play it. Now I'm trying to remove it from the.
We believe you.
Okay.
And it was like
it was amazing. The whole stadium just went crazy, and it was like.
But what it was though, just to explain to people out there who didn't get to see this amazing video that I just tried to share here, was the bottom line is that Thomas is that you retreated to line as opposed to trying to go with the speed of the ball. You recognized you were beat for pace. You retreated to line coming on from that outswinger right there. And when the ball came in, you actually had a player at your near post, but this was a little bit unorthodox. You recognized they were going to get beat if they tried to go for that ball. So you called them off and you went and boxed that ball out.
No, I knew the guy, he would never hit the ball. So I thought I had to get ahead of him and it's called know your player, know your player. Oh, he just had a haircut yesterday. There's no way he's in that of the line. So I have to really get there in front of him and save it.
The things we have to deal with as goalkeepers.
If it was somebody else, I would just say, okay, on you go, just head it away. I don't have to dive, but there I knew I had to. Yeah.
There's honestly nothing worse than when you have somebody someone's like, oh no, I'll take that post. And you're like, oh, please, not that guy. Why is that guy? That's not the guy I wanted. Can't call him off and say, no, you're not good at that.
Can honestly say I've never had that problem, but.
Oh, yeah. Well, you played at the highest levels. Of course you didn't. You're the world-class players. All of them can do it.
They better all do it.
Trust me, Michael. Trust me. No.
I love that you said he just had a haircut. That's right.
Hey, you watch Barcelona. I think it was was it El Clásico or was one of the games recently? And yeah, there's a guy on the post, and he just maybe it was a different game, but it was a top level game, and the guy can head it, and he just misses it on the line completely. So yeah, no, you can't trust your players at any level really. So.
Oh my gosh! I do want to say this. Omar, you actually had this discussion not that long ago about the fact that a lot of people, when they were training their goalkeepers based on actions that they were seeing in games as opposed to actions that their goalkeepers were seeing in games. So they were being like, oh, so-and-so happened in El Clasico, or this happened in this Champions League or whatever. Like, cool. That's the session I designed for my U9 goalkeeper based on those match actions that I saw at the Premier League level or the championship level. And now I'm going to incorporate it here. And why? And I'm frustrated that it's not working. Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think for me though, like even whenever I do that, I try to extract like the foundational, like the fundamental, like what am I trying to get out of this? Yeah, I can't replicate the speed, I can't replicate certain aspects of it, but are we working on prep touch? Are we working on, stopping the ball, like kind of like stepping on it, taking a touch, and then finding a dipping ball over the top? So like what is it when you dissect it to like the pull back as far as you can? What are you trying to get out of it? So that's what I would recommend for any coaches. Like if you're trying to replicate something you saw in the Champions League match or something like that, yeah, you watch it and you go, okay, what would I try to replicate for my goalkeepers in this? What did I see from this that I could take and apply it to a younger goalkeeper? So always try to extract as much as you can, and then based on what you've extracted, then you can start saying, okay, this is actually applicable for our style of play. This is applicable for our level. Beautiful. I'll apply this. Scrap that. Maybe save that for later. But that's what I would always try to tell people is understand what you're watching, what you can take out of it, and then try to apply it based on the age.
I love that. Okay, I think about the Stanford game, and I think about the deflection that, like, it was the weirdest goal on Lauren. And I looked at Amanda, I'm like, yeah, well, we don't train that in practice. I have absolutely no idea how to recreate something like that. I can tell you, if I break it down, what might have been a better way to handle it. But I'm not going to sit here and try to recreate some weird deflection that happened. Like, come on, coaches out there. You have to get more in depth with it. Break down, maybe positioning was off, maybe use the opposite hand or something like that. Possibly. It's a weird situation. You don't create training sessions based off of random things that happen once in a century. It doesn't work that way.
No, but I think what we do is like to get them into the state of mind and the readiness that if something unexpected happens, they have a chance to deal with it. Yeah. Because they are in the right state of mind, they are in the right position, and if something like that happens, you at least gave yourself a best chance to deal with it. But you end up not dealing with it because it was impossible, but at least you were
in the right state of mind.
Have a chance. Yeah.
And so you look at one of Lauren's first saves against USC this weekend, and she, like, the ball got deflected. She was moving across the goal, but she was in the right state of mind to gather up her body. She made a foot save, like right on the line. And I'm like, awesome. I'm like, keep the ball out of the net. Is that unorthodox? It is, but you're at least in the right state of mind and totally focused on what's going on, that you weren't like, I'm moving across, oh, it went the other way, oh, I'm screwed. You were like, I'm still focused on the ball and I could still get something there, and you make a save. And I'm like, awesome. That's awesome. It was amazing.
I love what you're saying there, Saskia, because it was reminding me of like a few years back when I was on a conference call with Tim Howard. We were in at our Federation goalkeeping license, and Tim Howard was on there, and somebody in the course, brought up a scenario, and they said, "Oh, how often do you run this session? Do you run this action at your training sessions?" And he literally went, "We never do. We never do." He says, because you realize and what they were talking about was a specific save that he made in the Belgium game that was a top corner save. He's like, because the physical pounding of doing the repetition of that over and over again at my age, it would be actually detrimental to me. It's like, we build the foundation so that when I'm called upon
to make it, you can
perform that action. Exactly.
And that's old school. And I know you guys are a lot younger and stuff, but old school goalkeeping here in America used to be like, let's do the power diving. Let's do this for that 1% of one chance in one game out of your entire season that you're called on to pull that Belgium shot down. And that's not what you do, because first of all, I had a herniated disc from doing that stuff, diving over people and diving over barrels and stuff like that. What am I doing? And you're right. And Timmy's right. And we grew up under the same coaches, but it's giving you the foundation and the load and the explosiveness that when you do have to do it, it's in your toolbox. You don't train it. Like your longevity as a goalkeeper will be 0 if you train something like that. Period.
Yeah, to be honest, like some of the training I did in the past, I'm surprised I lasted to 35 because honestly, like you'll be especially in preseason, like you would be just insane. Like if I look at it now, and it would be literally just repetition going over the massive hurdle. Maybe you might have some 15 kilo vest on you and trying to do that, maybe tied to both posts with this kind of cord or something, and do 20 reps of that, and then you train maybe 3 times a day in the preseason, and then after 2 days, obviously you couldn't walk, you couldn't do anything, and then
it's crazy. It's crazy.
So yeah.
I will do it once in a while, maybe once or twice a season. I'll do something, and goalkeepers are crazy, so they think it's fun meant for mentality. Like it's like, let's have some fun. Let's do this. Just mentality. It's a mentality check. We're going to go upper 90. We're going to do it. It's in the flow of the game. It's not jumping over hurdles or anything like that, but it's in the flow of the game. It's putting them outside of their comfort zone and making them have to fly, making them have to make the impossible save, coming near post, 3-goal situation, getting across and going. But that's a mentality check, and maybe once or twice a season I'll do it. But in the meantime, I give them the tools to be able to do it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Go ahead, Thomas.
What?
No, just to say that that mental aspect to train sometimes it's a good thing. So because you learn a lot about your goalkeepers or your players, how willing they are to push themselves, and that tells you a lot about their chances of succeeding. And also, like as you said, like you can prepare yourself physically, like whether it's in a gym or different kind of way to be physically able to do that safe in the top corner and have that great explosive power. But you can do it in a safe environment, not environment that damages your body, if you do it over the years. So I think again that's something to think about, and and some coaches might not think about it as much.
Mike's still trying.
I guess
this working
don't play
now?
that clip, honestly.
No.
It's the most average save you will see in football, honestly. It's like
that's amazing. Did everyone just see that?
It's still choppy, Mike.
All right, fine. I'll stop the sharing. I was trying.
I got slaughtered after the game in the dressing room that I didn't catch it, and I patted it to the side. So.
But there, Thomas, to agree with you, but there are times that you have to do a mental check on your goalkeeper, and there are times I've done it in pregame where I feel that my goalkeepers aren't dialed in, they're not in pregame, and I might change up our pregame scenario, and next thing you know, we're doing rapid fire really quick because I need them to get out of their heads, click off, and just make some saves and get into that goalkeeper mode. It doesn't happen very often. Sometimes if I notice that they're sluggish or something like that, I might do that. I think it's happened twice this season. But there are times that there's a mental check for a goalkeeper. But you can't do this. You can't. I'm still hurting.
Yeah, and Mike, I kind of want to add on to this discussion. I think, from what I said earlier about like you see a certain exercise, and that's sometimes, as a young coach, I used to always see coaches that I wanted to compare myself to, and I would say, oh, I would never do that drill. Why are they doing that drill? And then now whenever I go watch somebody train, I'm like, okay, let me understand what the concept is. Like, what are they trying to get out of this? And for example, if you're trying to do power diving, for me now, it's like, okay, how can I dissect that a little bit more? Well, maybe in the gym or the strength coach, I say, hey, I need can you work on single leg bounce? Can we work on jumping from side to side, doing the little ski jump side to side? So now they can get that explosive power, box jumps now where they're dependent on that one leg essentially to push and go. And then eventually you work it into sessions where now you're using your off leg to transmit that power through your hips to the plant leg, and then you go. But you're building the foundation off the field so that when you get out to the field, now in my opinion, you have like a language that's being produced off the field that the goalkeepers understand, and they come in, and now that explosiveness, there's like a method to the madness. Like you understand exactly where you're supposed to transmit that energy versus just getting out to those sessions. Yeah, you want to, pressure test them and all that. That's fine. But I think understanding, okay, what it is that you're trying to do and what we're trying to get out of this strengthening off the field to get you to this session in the game or in off a corner kick. Yeah, recovering back to your line is great. But what you see with Stefan Fry, the MLS Cup final against Seattle, or no, against Seattle, against Toronto. He comes across the goal, gets set, and that header goes back across him, and he plants. I mean, I'm sure he did box jumps all the time. Plants off that left leg and extends himself to the top corner. So again, it's just those things that like you need to dissect even more to understand as a coach. How can I get the goalkeeper better so that my sessions aren't the only exposure they're having to these moments?
No, and I agree with you 1,000% that it's got to be off the field as well, whether it's in the gym, whether it's other sports, which we've talked about, and everything. And that understanding of your body, your balance, and everything comes from so many different angles and so many different things that it has to become second nature. You know, we can stand out there and I could do repetitions all the time, and eventually you're going to tip one or pull one down out of the top corner. But is it because you're doing repetitions, or is it because you have muscle memory? And there's a big difference there.
Yep.
Thomas, I have a question for you, because obviously now you're working in the youth game. You know, after playing at such a high level, I think one of the difficult things that, you know, I recognize at the youth game, and I don't know if you've started to see this as well too, is that youth coaches or goalkeepers themselves will want to train specific actions, because those are the actions that they recognized in a game and they felt, oh, I really need to work on this. And so they end up wanting you to focus your entire training on those actions, when in reality, there's 6 or 7 actions that are more common for that goalkeeper in the game that led to that action even being necessary. So they're like, oh, back to the bar. We got to do back to the bar. It's like, yeah, but if we worked on his starting position, we wouldn't have to do as much back to the bar work. He's getting beat back to the bar because he's out of position every time, you know?
Yeah, no, it's funny. You know, you have obviously a lot of youth goalkeepers. They just love to, you know, practice their side volleys all the time and do like all types of like fancy kicks, maybe like kicks from hands. And then when I was recently analyzing, I just analyzed all the quarterfinals, you know, Champions League quarterfinal games. And then the kick from hand was virtually non-existent. It was like a 1 kick per game. And of course, it's important to have all the tools in the toolbox, because like you might find yourself in the game where you need to kick from hand, so you need to know it. But you know, then maybe thinking that's the most, you know, that's the best thing I can practice right now. That's the best way to spend next half an hour. And then if you actually analyze some of the games, it's not being done that often, you know. So I would say, could we spend that half an hour more effectively and practice something that actually happens in the game more often, and something that you're definitely gonna need to deal with on Saturday, you know. So that's my kind of perspective. That's why I try to analyze, you know, our own game, of our own goalkeepers. I'm trying to analyze game, you know, at like what Omar obviously is doing, just analyzing the game as games at the highest level, try to compare them, see whether there's some, you know, let's say how they compare to each other. And like what I don't have enough data, but like it has been really similar. You know, I analyze all the quarterfinals in the Champions League, and then analyze a couple of our league games we just started playing. And in terms of like what type of actions and the proportion of action happen in the game, we're pretty similar. So I've got, for example, like in terms of games in the Champions League, we had like 76% is distribution. 6% is dealing with crosses. 9% altogether is dealing with the balls behind the fence. And then shot stopping is around 9%. And the numbers for my goalkeepers and those first 2 games were almost identical, you know. So it's just kind of interesting to see. I didn't think it would be that way. You know, I thought there would be a big difference maybe in certain aspects, but yeah, it was pretty similar.
That blows me away, man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Go ahead.
Yeah, but Mike, I think you bring up a great point. I think, how often do I say that? I think you bring up a great point that it's not the immediate action.
I think you said 3 times. You've said it 3 times
in my entire life.
Yeah.
It's not the immediate action. It's not the you couldn't get back to the bar, and so why don't we train back to the bar? It's where was your positioning? Where did the fundamental breakdown get down that we weren't in the right position to make the proper steps to get back to the bar? And that's a bigger picture, and that's what people have to look at. And what you have with youth goalkeepers is they always want to try to prove themselves to you. So they make a mistake, and so the next day of practice, they're like, okay, I didn't make the save, back to the bar. Let's do back to the bar. Let's do it. You know, and so that's youth goalkeepers. They're like, okay, you know, I didn't hit this side volley very well, so I'm just going to practice side volleys. Like, you know, so you that's where you as a coach come in and say, all right, let's slow this down a little bit and let's look at the bigger picture. And the younger we can start at that, the better off they are.
Yeah. And just to say, like, the transfer from, you know, the analysis into the training process and how we improve the goalkeeper. So I don't know whether I'll be able to share a couple of screenshots.
Yeah,
so,
try to give it a shot, man. I gave it a shot. We saw what happened.
Okay, let's see. Application window. Here we go. So share that. And then, so here we had like a training match a few weeks ago. And so identified we have a new goalkeeper who's just, you know, this is the first time in this kind of level, and he was playing kind of boys club football, and so he just joined us. And one thing you notice is like his starting position. So this is after the ball comes from the opposition half, so deep in the opposition half, and basically when the ball was played, I can see from the video. No, it's just a still here, obviously taken from the video. He started inside of his 6-yard box. So obviously straight away we have a big problem here. This is how the action kind of develops. So it ends up clearing the ball, but it's under all sorts of pressures, end up just kind of kicking it out of field. And obviously if the starting position was somewhere around the penalty spot or even higher, the ball would have been so much easier. So I can show him that. I can show him the clip and then have a discussion where our starting position. Then I go to someone like Manu Neuer, where as is from last week, when he heads the ball inside the opposition box in the 44th minute of the Champions League game. So clearly his starting position must have been pretty high. There's one, I love this one. So that's Bayern Munich attacking, and that's his starting position there. So yeah, and then we try to kind of look what type of sessions we can do to kind of get them through repetitions and become, you know, better and move that starting position a bit higher. So I got like a few exercises. I then speak to the coach and I said, can we do this type of exercise with a team, and it will be exercise for the goalkeeper. So you have like playing from the back with the pressure. There's some defensive scenarios, but the one I'm looking for is defending crosses here, like a long balls behind. When the goalkeeper has to take that higher starting position, work with his 4 defenders who are facing the ball, and then we play, you know, different type of balls over the top, and with kind of several attacking players running towards the goal, and then the goalkeeper needs to make that decision: do I come out, deal with the ball, do I have to drop and deal with the one-on-one situation? And that's what I've talked before about. Yeah, we cannot create exactly what happens in the game, but we can. To these kind of sessions with using, you know, all the players and stuff, we can create a repetition and put, you know, if the goalkeeper makes, you know, 50 right decisions in this kind of situation, it probably become a bit easier in the game to make that correct decision. So just to illustrate how, you know, we transfer the analysis to a training.
I want to bring this up right there, Thomas, because there's some really, really good points right there. Omar, I think one thing that I think is really prevalent with younger goalkeepers out there, and obviously, you know, when you're talking to them on DMs and stuff like that, you know, fans of yours and everything like that, is they'll bring up specific actions as if those are like kind of like the recipes to play at the next level. As if in like, oh, if I work on this, I can play at this level here. If I work on this, I can play at this level here. Why don't you kind of just break down how that kind of a fallacy, and just the fact is that they need to recognize their overall game and the trends in their game as opposed to these specific actions.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Understanding, when you break down a play, what is it about the play that you could actually improve without replicating that exact play? And I think once you're able to actually dissect it and understand, again, peel it back as far as you possibly can, what in this play could I have done better that was in my control? That is, in my opinion, what younger goalkeepers can actually, go to their goalkeeper coach and work on, versus saying, oh, if only I'm faster off my line, then, I'm going to be, be Manuel Neuer. I'm going to be somebody who's going to be a sweeper keeper, and I'll fit every system I can go to. It's more like, no, why don't you first work on your positioning so that when you do come out for that ball in relation to when that ball is getting played over, you have a higher starting point, a better probability of getting off that line quicker. And then also too, okay, what does your first step look like? And Saskia always said this, training with like the track team. Again, there's not many resources, and a lot. I'm saying this as if like I'm at a college, but like if you are on YouTube or something like that, see like, how do I improve my initial step off the line? How do I stand flat-footed? Do I stand staggered? You know what I mean? So you can actually dissect it so far back that you can start improving those little things. And eventually you'll get to a point where you start to notice like, oh my God, okay, well, I'm way faster off my line. What is it? Oh, it's because I actually improved my first step off the line, my initial movement in my starting position. Where was I before then? So I think all those little factors build up to the big piece of what you're trying to get at is again, getting faster off the line.
Yeah, and I think that I love the fact that you just brought up all those little pieces that lead to kind of like that motion. I mean, Saskia, I know obviously, you spent a little bit of time in the youth game, and I know you got to be taking off in a couple seconds right here, but kind of as we're kind of wrapping up and everything like that, why don't you kind of showcase kind of the fact that like a lot of these younger goalkeepers, because they did those little actions that you asked from them at the foundational stage, where they were 12 weeks later, as opposed to just looking at that big picture and thinking, oh, that's the action I want to work on. I want to work on this action. I want to work on this action.
Well, I mean, like, and you have to keep reiterating, because they want instant gratification for things with younger players, that you have to keep reiterating that the basics are what will get them to that end stage. You can't skip over anything. And so my foundation of training has always been just that repetition of it's a dance. That's what I keep saying. It's understanding like your micro movements. It's understanding your positioning. It's understanding everything and explaining why. And young kids, and for you coaches out there, they just want to go right into it. They just want to go right into flying all over the place, dive in, this, that, and the other. But you have to explain why. You have to explain the reasons for things. You have to explain that it might look good for your parents in the stands, but why did you make that so difficult? Why are you making something that should be easy through positioning, through communication and everything, such a difficult save? And that's only detrimental to you as a goalkeeper. The easiest save is the best save. Staying on your feet is the best save. Holding the ball is the best save. Not boxing the ball when you could have held it, not coming out late and doing something like totally off the cusp and flamboyant. That's not the best. It's keeping it simple is the best. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that right there is just so important, is that we just talk about when we're talking about these match actions, is that the simplest actions generally tend to be the most successful actions in a match. The most complicated actions have a higher level of, for lack of a better term, failure, Thomas, right?
Yeah, no, completely agree. And even like in terms of distribution, when you look at it again, that kind of simple, finding the most effective solution to solve the situation. So obviously Saskia was talking about, shot stopping, but you can transfer that to distribution, was the most effective solution for us. And sometimes it's just a simple pass, it's not a brilliant half volley, it's not a brilliant, clip. It's just a simple pass into the player who is opening. Mm-hmm. So just finding the most effective way to deal with the situations for me is kind of, the really massive part of being a goalkeeper. Because there's always different ways of dealing with things, but the one that's most effective, and as you say, is probably the one that's a simple one. That's just, as you said, catching the ball better than parrying the ball, but you have to put yourself in a position where you are able to catch the ball. If you are not in the right position, you ended up, scrambling and and just maybe fighting the ball or even losing the goal. So yeah, I think all about really finding what's the most effective, and for different goalkeepers that's gonna be slightly different as well based on their physical abilities and all that. So
yeah, well, I know everybody's like, I know it's getting late for you, obviously, Thomas, over there. Thank you for bearing with us with the new technology. I'm trying my best here to try to make us look really snazzy and spiffy and everything like that. Unfortunately,
Omar's not happy.
yeah.
Like I said,
Omar's looking at me. He's like,
he looks like he's taking
Omar,
a mugshot. We had to put like a little.
He looks like he's getting ready passport photo or DMV.
That works. Yeah.
Yeah. Saskia, I know you got to get out of here. Real quickly, Thomas, for you, because you've played for the last what is it, 15 years? My gosh, man! I mean, what a good amount of time for a professional career. I mean, really solid. Congratulations on that. Have you noticed that the trend that the areas that actions are taking place now in the game today are different than they were when you first started playing 15 years ago, or the trend's pretty much the same still? Because that's something that a lot of people are bringing up. They're like, oh, you don't understand, the game is this way now, so this action only takes place in this area now, and instead, so don't train it over here because it happens at the top of the 18 as opposed to down at the 6, yada yada.
No, I think it is a good question, and yeah, I think it has changed slightly. I don't think it's changed massively. I think it's in terms of maybe the goalkeepers are slightly more proactive. Maybe in terms of when we come in for a corner, we might be another step out of the goal, being able to affect, and we are ready to go up if we need to. In terms of starting positions for balls behind, I think that has moved, quite a bit up the pitch over those last 15 years. And then again, if you just go back to my analysis, so I did like the World Cup 2006 and in a great detail analyzed all the 64 games. And then, there was like 18% of the goalkeeping performance was dealing with the balls behind the fence. And now I've done the analysis just recently for the Champions League and for some of our games. And it went down by half to like 9%. And I was just kind of think like, how did that happen? Because like, you expect the goalkeepers to play higher, so they probably be intercepting more balls. But I think it's just the way I think there's two reasons. I think one is that the team just plays different type of football. There's more possession-based football, and there's so much value put on possession of the game, so they are less likely to play those longer balls and maybe risky balls throughout. But also, I think the ability of the goalkeepers to deal with those situations is much better. So we are higher up and we are ready for those balls behind. And then the opposition team tends to not play them as often because they know they're probably going to get, dealt with by the goalkeeper. And then 2006, you had Oliver Kahn playing in the World Cup, one of his last games. And then now you have, goalkeepers like Manuel Neuer. And, you can see that the starting position clearly has changed and our ability to deal with those situations also. But in terms of like short stopping and like everything else, like at least I've not noticed like in massive difference. I was one of those goalkeepers who like to be kind of starting high up and proactive and coming out of my box dealing with the situations. But so for me personally, I don't think it has changed massively. But in terms of what types of situations we face now, it has definitely changed. There's so much more back passes. There's so much more, importance on kind of distribution and precise passing instead of just kicking the ball long. That has changed massively over the course of the career, and something I had to, adjust big time, because the expectation when I was starting out was just kick the long ball, it is a back pass, just first time clearance. If it doesn't go to the stand, you will get clapped. Well done, that was a great kick. If you do it now, you get completely slaughtered. You just lost the team possession of the ball. So that changed so much. And again, if I compare 2006 to 2021, we have like 3 or 4 times more back passes. So again, that indicates how much the goalkeeper became integrated within the team and how important the goalkeeper is to the way the team is able to play. And it's like clear if you watch any of the games at the high level, like you see, like it's insane, like how good the goalkeepers are and how involved they are in the game in terms of possession of the ball and starting the attacks and stuff. So I think that has been the biggest difference for me, and something, you know, which is, it's a massive change. You know, if that happens in the middle of your career, you have to work really hard to just kind of stay in the game.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, Josh, I mean, that just opens up another Pandora's box there in regards to whether for young goalkeepers to learn that it's okay sometimes to clear the ball into the stands. But I know that we're running long on time.
Of course, it's okay. Of course, sometimes that's the best option.
When in doubt, kick it out.
Yeah.
Live to fight another day.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
Well, Thomas, thanks for taking on all the time with us right now here, and congratulations, obviously, like I said, on the career and now moving into coaching and analysis and the punditry and all that sort of stuff. If people want to check out some of this work that you're doing right now, where's the best place on social media for them to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, quite active, but I've not been posting that much about goalkeeping, but I might change. Occasionally I put like a wee story or put like a little video from the session and stuff like that, but that might change in the future. So I would say Instagram, it's probably the best way to connect. And obviously if I'll be more than happy to help anybody, you know, anyway, in terms of giving advice or tips and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm very approachable in that respect. And just thank you so much for having me, because again, through like that discussion, you again, even if you come away with like a couple ideas, I know, from what Saskia said or Omar, at the end, it's a valuable time to be spent, you know, and then it's just the way we then apply it in practice.
No, I absolutely, man. And like, obviously, guys, if you have a guest suggestion or topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number, 18media.com. Thomas reached out. He's like, hey, I've got a guest suggestion. I've got a topic suggestion. I'm like, good. I'd love to know what they are. They're like, well, the guest suggestion's myself. And
I love
the
that.
Topic suggestion.
I love it.
I love it too, man. I mean, and honestly, guys, by the way, for those of I know there's a lot of people out there who they reach out and they'll go, oh, I don't know. I saw Tomas was, Cerny was just on, I didn't play against Celtic and Dembele and all these guys, guys, just because of that, if you have a great topic idea or if you've got a story that would be great for the audience, still reach out. You don't have to be, have played at the highest levels to be able to bring something to the table to benefit the goalkeeping community. I want everyone to understand that not everybody's Omar Cerny. Okay. And, nobody's won a World Cup like Saskia Weber. I mean, very few people, I think two, have done that. So, guys, if you want to reach out to Saskia Weber, obviously Saskia_Weber on all media platforms. Omar Cerny at ProK Academy _ myself at Michael Magid. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.
Later, guys.
All right.
Oh my God.